All four of my childhood friends fell in love with the new transfer student and fought with each other jealously for her. I just said the right to choose should be in the girl's hands. The transfer student then assumed that I was calling her a gold digger. She then cried and ran out of the villa that my childhood friends had given her and was knocked unconscious. In order to avenge the transfer student, my childhood friends made my family ruined. I also died in the sea on my way to being sold abroad. When I woke up again, it was a trip for 6 people, but the transfer student had only reserved 5 rooms. I turned around smartly and left the 5 of them to love each other in the homestay. Ah, Sherry, don't push me. A shrill scream of a female voice rang out. I opened my eyes. In front of me was still the white deck and the surging waves. And the person who was about to fake a fall in front of me was the transfer student. As my consciousness came back, I was on a yacht. This was a trip that my childhood friends and I had prepared to celebrate the upcoming senior year of high school. It was this trip that started my miserable life later. There was no time to think too much. Before the faking could succeed, I plunged hard into the surging waves. 2 outsiders. It seemed that Assis had pulled me into the water to protect herself. Nothing ventured, nothing gained. I hoped Isis would take my counterattack well. Quick, save her. Quickly. She just pushed me a little, how could she fall? The scheming girl was really hard to deal with. She pretended to be a good person and didn't forget to frame me in every sentence. Suddenly, a person jumped off the deck to save me. And I was taken swimming towards the yacht. The person who saved me was Brandon. He had always been simple-minded and physically strong, doing things only according to his preferences. It was a pity for his handsome face. Now he had the deepest feelings for Assis. Actually, I was good at swimming. I almost went to the national team for training when I was a kid. But since someone came to save me, I started to pretend to struggle. Pretending to be drowning and clinging tightly to Brandon without letting go. I dragged him so that he choked on several mouthfuls of seawater before he lifted me onto the deck. Silas helped me sit up. Assis squeezed over, inserted herself between me and Silas, looked on the verge of crying, and started to play works on them again. Sherry, are you okay? Don't blame her, she also meant to pull me up kindly. He was the eldest among us. More than half of the coal mines in the coal capital belonged to his family. So no one could catch his eye except Assis, who always contradicted him. I immediately retorted to him, of course I'm not okay. Why don't you fall down and try? You still know that I meant to pull you up kindly? The question Assis asked was very clever. When she asked if I was okay, most people would immediately say yes, thus achieving her goal of downplaying the severity of the matter. All right, Sherry, you bullied Assis before and now it's even. Silas, take her back first. He began to take control of the situation. Although Assis wouldn't apologize to me, I was already quite satisfied with the result today. Now all 4 of them were attracted to Assis. Assis, who transferred to our school in the sophomore year, only took 1 year to make the 4 top influential figures in the school fall for her. I even heard that Brandon wanted to give up sports and study art in order to go to the same university as Assis because Assis was an art specialty student recruited by the school with excellent painting skills. She was especially good at imitation and her skills were so superb that she could almost make the fake look real. Your sister Sherry, how did you become a drowned rat in such a short time? Suddenly, a bright and cheerful young voice broke the current deadlock. Wayne, who always had a smiling face, had a slight curl at the corner of his mouth at this time, mocking and making fun of me. Wayne was 2 grades lower than us and would start the first year of high school when school began. The sunny boy who always had a warm smile was actually the cruelest and most vicious among the 4 of them. It was only before I died in my previous life that I knew that the miserable situation of my family was almost all caused by him. I suppressed my hatred in my heart and I would slowly take back everything. Even though it seemed that I was the victim now, none of the 4 of them had said a word for me. Only Silas, the light in his eyes reflected under his gold-rimmed glasses, was thought-provoking. Silas put his arm around my shoulder and half carried me back to the cabin. He suddenly said, Sherry, don't argue with Assis. She's different from you. I directly interrupted what Silas was about to say in a low voice. I don't want to talk about her with you. Can you just leave me alone for a while? Since I was a child, I had always liked to cling to Silas. He was called cold to others and taciturn, but he always talked a lot like a fussy old mother in front of me. He even said that the original intention of wanting to be a doctor was for me because I had a scar-prone constitution and loved to play around. When I was a kid, it was always Silas who accompanied me to deal with the wounds when I was injured. He said, Sherry, I'll be afraid. I'll protect you in the future. Don't care about those scars either. I'll be the best doctor in the world and help you remove the scars. If Assis hadn't appeared, everyone would have thought that Silas and I were a perfect match. However, there was no if. In the near future, my 4 childhood friends would turn against each other because of Assis. Assis was like a weak and harmless daughter flower snuggling up beside them. Sure enough, Assis, just like in my previous life, had only reserved 5 rooms. The homestay was a small villa. Assis said that she had carefully selected it. There was a seaview room with floor-to-ceiling windows that you liked. There was an equestrian room that Brandon liked. There were also swimming pools that Wayne and Silas liked. And I was not within Assis's concern. And she put it nicely, when I knew there were only 5 rooms here, I really felt that it was God's favor. Let me have the opportunity to sleep with the sweet and soft Sherry. I can make the bed for you and help you pat your leg. Sherry, just bear with it and sleep in the same room with me. In my previous life, of course, I wouldn't put up with it. Why should I feel aggrieved just because she wanted to please the other 4 people? I directly threw her luggage from the 2nd floor to the living room and pointed at my 4 childhood friends and said to Assis, whoever you like, just squeeze in with them. I'm here to travel and relax, not to be wronged with you. Then Assis felt that she had lost face and ran away without taking her luggage. It was also on this day, Assis, the transfer student who was recruited by the school at a high price because of her painting skills, could no longer use a paintbrush. Assis's right hand was stabbed and disabled. Everyone thought that I had ruined Assis's life. They all said that I was the chief culprit for everything. I also felt that I had committed a serious sin. If I had shared a room with Assis back then and she hadn't run away alone, maybe this wouldn't have happened. So I started to try to accept Assis and tried every means to compensate her. Later, I went to visit Assis at her home. Before I even entered the door, I saw Silas and Wayne fighting fiercely at Assis's door. And Hugh and Brandon were also at loggerheads. They ignored the friendship they had grown up with. I had nothing to say. However, they fought with each other like this laterally and no one cared about Assis's thoughts at all. This wasn't the animal world and the person being pursued wasn't a reward for the winner. Because I felt that I owed Assis, I still said something as Assis's own thoughts. The right to choose who to be with should be in the girl's hands. It was just such a simple sentence that became the testimony for Assis to believe that I said she was a gold digger. She cried and ran out of the villa given by my childhood friends. On the way, she was knocked unconscious. After that, my life was completely in a desperate situation. I hadn't responded to Assis's idea of wanting to sleep in the same room with me yet. Brandon couldn't bear to see Assis's look of swallowing her anger and trying to please me. He was impatient all over his face. Sherry, that's enough. Assis looked at Brandon pitifully and then at me cautiously. Sherry, if you really don't want to, I can sleep on the floor. Do you think it's okay? I quietly watched her performance, curious about why she was so good at pretending. There wasn't a single truth in her mouth. It was hard to imagine that Assis had deceived everyone. However, her hand was indeed disabled. In the dim box of the club, I was wearing an exposed uniform and serving drinks to the guests. The hardships of life had made me lose a lot of weight. Every time I looked in the mirror and saw my sunken cheeks, I was reflecting what on earth had I done that was so evil that I had to suffer such hardships. This was already the highest-paying job I could find after my family was ruined. Assis was wearing heavy makeup, weakly snuggling in the strong arms of a man with her fingers moving across the man's chest. I lowered my head to reduce my sense of presence and silently poured the wine. Brother Ting, did you deal with that scoundrel who stabbed me cleanly? The kind that there will be no future trouble. The man chuckled softly and his big hand slowly moved up along Assis's thigh. That's your own father, are you sure you want to leave it to me? I saw Assis stretch out her right hand and slowly touch the man's earlobe with a missing piece. Her voice was as cold as a venomous snake, so what? He disabled my hand. Everyone who stood in my way should die. Then the two got closer and closer. I continued to clean up the used wine glasses on the table and heard Assis continue to say, "Don't mention the spoiled sports, Brother Ting. You really have a good plan." The frame-up was done flawlessly. I guess Sherry never thought about when she had someone dive into me. Now not only has Sherry's family been eliminated, but also the 4 of them feel even more guilty towards me. Tell me, how do you want me to thank you? I'll listen to you today. Then the two kissed passionately. My hand subconsciously clenched tightly. It turned out that everything was fake. Her identity of being an orphan was fake. The fact that her hand was disabled because of me was fake. And even her being knocked unconscious was fake. We were all played by her like fools. At that time, there was still a glimmer of hope in my heart. Maybe my 4 childhood friends would believe what I said. Maybe they didn't love Assis that much. I took the initiative to find them and said, if all the harm that Assis suffers has nothing to do with me, would you believe it? Silas gave me the answer with his actions. My right hand was stabbed with a knife. The sharp dagger stabbed hard into my palm. They said that I owed it to Assis. I wanted to ask why, but suddenly the handle of the knife rotated, affecting my tendons and bones, making me feel extreme pain. Before I fell unconscious, I only saw Silas holding the handle of the knife and 3 people sitting lazily on the sofa not far away. The gentle young man who had vowed to be a doctor and use his skills to save lives when he was a kid, now he actually stabbed a sharp blade at me. After that, I was secretly transported onto a ship. I only learned from the chatting of the guards that my 4 childhood friends were going to sell me to the lowest red light district in a foreign country, let me be a real gold digger. I jumped into the sea recklessly on the way. The surging waves kept squeezing the remaining oxygen in my body. Before losing consciousness, I felt how ridiculous my life was. I couldn't see people clearly and met the wrong people. But even more ridiculous were my 4 childhood friends, each with their heads in the clouds and their minds as stupid as pigs. We've all forgotten the man had a piece missing from his earlobe. He was Ethan, Brendan's cousin and one of the school's board of directors. The appearance of his Assis now seemed reasonable. A beautiful and tenacious transfer student would be envied by others for being raised as the new campus belle. In order to avoid being bullied, she accidentally barged into the resting place of her childhood friends. Since then, a delicate and pitiful girl like a daughter flower began to get entangled with her 4 childhood friends. It seemed like a scene where the hunter turned into the prey to launch an attack. Yet people's hearts are unpredictable, especially those with ambition. In my opinion, Assis's ambition was obvious. When she saw that I didn't agree to share a room with her, she looked even more aggrieved. She wanted to reach out to take my suitcase for me, but was afraid that I would say something to make her even more embarrassed. Finally, she summoned up her courage, looked at the 4 people behind her who were backing her up, and with a frown, knelt down in front of me, crying pitifully. I stood there with an indifferent look on my face. Her small kneeling figure made me seem even more superior. Anyone who saw this would surely say that I was bullying the weak. Suddenly, Wayne kicked over my suitcase. "Sherry, don't be so shameless when you're given face. Your falling into the sea was just an accident. Sister Assis has begged you like this, what else do you want?" His voice was particularly fierce. The other 3 people also looked angry. Hugh pulled Assis into his arms faster than Brendan. "Sherry, I'll just assume that you're still not grown up. You apologize to Assis and we'll leave as if nothing had happened." I looked around at the 4 of them. They seemed so strange to me. The suitcase had fallen to the ground, but I was too lazy to pick it up. I just took my bag and walked out. "Sherry, stop making trouble. It's getting dark soon, where else can you go?" Silas rushed out and reached out to grab me. "Be obedient and come back with me." I yanked my wrist out of his hand with force. "Who says I have nowhere to go? Don't you know that this holiday villa belongs to my family?" After coming out of the homestay, I deliberately found the alley where Assis was entered in my previous life. I found a private room on the 2nd floor next to it. As long as I turned my head, I could see the sea view outside the window and Assis. She was arguing with a middle-aged man. She said that it was because I drove her away that she was stabbed by bad guys. But what was the truth? I would soon find out. Thanks to the audio source focus tracking technology of mobile phones nowadays. As the picture was enlarged bit by bit, Assis's voice became clear. "What kind of father are you? Have you ever raised me since I was a child? Now I can sell a painting for 500 million yuan, do you want me to stop? Who are you to dictate my life?" The man with a stooped body had a pleading look on his face. His voice was too low for me to hear clearly, but it could be seen that these words enraged Assis. Suddenly, she pulled out a knife and stabbed the man. Soon, the man's clothes were stained red. Then came Assis's painful scream as the dagger pierced through her hand. The man fell motionless in a pool of blood. Assis ran away. However, as soon as she ran past the entrance of the alley, she would meet the 4 of them. They were worried and all came out to look for Assis. No one cared about the person lying in the dim alley soaked in blood. But such a good witness, of course, I wouldn't miss it. The summer vacation passed quickly. Assis's hand was completely disabled, just like in the previous life. But it was also this incident that brought us closer to the 4 of them. I heard that they joined together to do some big business and made a fortune. They used their first bucket of gold to buy a villa for Assis. Assis and the 4 of them must be tied together tightly. Being reborn didn't give me an extremely intelligent brain, but it's always right to be down to earth. I wanted to do some good deeds just to make up for my unfulfilled dreams. Ricky, a 14-year-old swimming prodigy, suddenly declined when he was 18. He hadn't received professional training yet, but he had excellent talent and physical fitness. In the previous life, a few years later, Ricky was a rising star in the swimming world. At just 18 years old, he won major international awards and he was once the cash cow of Brandon's family company. The company required him to win the championship in every competition and he was covered with injuries at a young age. The Brandon family became more and more greedy and began to require Ricky to break records in every competition. Finally, having failed, they didn't hesitate to use despicable means and gave Ricky stimulants before the World Championships. The result was predictable. The Brandon family shifted all the blame onto him and a rising star in the swimming world fell like this. I looked at Ricky in front of me who was as pure as a blank sheet of paper. A 14-year-old boy should have had a glorious life, but in a previous life, it was forever frozen at the age of 18. Sister Sherry, will my grandma come with me? The boy blinked his eyes which looked like puppy eyes. Ricky only had his grandma to depend on and his family with no one to back him up. It's no wonder he was bullied so badly in his previous life. Of course, but grandma still needs to go to the hospital for recuperation first. I'll take you to see grandma after tomorrow's training. Instantly, there was light in the boy's eyes. His already delicate facial features now looked even more dazzling. What a charming boy. I arranged for Ricky to study in the junior high school department of our school. On weekdays, he would go to school with me. To the outside world, I said he was my distant younger cousin. Except for those close to me, no one knew what I was doing. After all, it's the most interesting to play dumb while being smart. The peaceful days didn't last long and someone annoying came to find me. Hugh and the others had a new business and wanted me to invest in it. They proudly called it a family and friends price. In fact, it was just because they had fallen out with their families because they insisted on being with Assis and were short of money. I didn't directly refuse because I was really curious what on earth did the four of them see in Assis. The one who woke me up was the man I rescued from the pool of blood, Assis's father. The man wanted to see me as soon as he woke up and said that he had a big business to cooperate with me. Miss Sherry, Assis can't paint anymore. With the few remaining paintings of hers, if they are well managed, you'll have the final say on how much they can be worth. I was tempted. Soon, the news that Assis was the daughter of a noble family was widely spread. Any painting she casually took out was a masterpiece and could be sold at a sky-high price easily. Assis's background gradually changed from that of a transfer student with no parents to a reclusive young lady from the Beijing elite circle. There were many people who were more tempted than I was. Even though Hugh's family had been wealthy for 3 generations, they couldn't break free from the shackles of being nouveau riche. They originally planned to expand their network and integrate into the real noble family circle by marrying me. In the previous life, they were very successful. First, they used the excuse of me bullying Assis to ruin my reputation. Then, under Wayne's plan, they used frame-ups and all kinds of dirty means to successfully bring down our SH family. But after experiencing a miserable life, how could I let the bad guys succeed again? And it was even less possible for me to be tempted by the petty profits related to Assis. What I was tempted by was the pleasure of first building someone up high and then throwing them down hard to kill with praise. Hugh had always been arrogant and looked down on others. Now that Assis had the identity of a young lady from the Beijing elite circle, Hugh was on cloud 9 every day when he was with her. Not only Hugh, but the other 3 also doted on Assis. Silas even skipped his senior year classes to accompany Assis abroad to seek medical treatment for her hand. They were all fawning over Assis, except for Wayne who came to find me now. Hey, Sherry, I heard that you always have a tag-along by your side. What's the meaning of that? Found a new partner? Wayne didn't even bother to fake a smile now and his face was gloomy. I lowered my head to pack my school bag, too lazy to look at him. Did you quarrel with the dog? Your words stink. What I do has nothing to do with you. I'm so annoyed to see you, get lost. After packing my things, I just stood up when Wayne grabbed my arm forcefully. He looked very angry. Sherry, hidden toll session, don't be ungrateful. Sister Assis has been looking for you, why don't you pay attention to her? With her current identity, you can't bully her at will anymore, you better behave yourself. Before Wayne could finish his words, Ricky suddenly came and knocked Wayne's hand that was grabbing my arm away hard. The boy had grown a lot taller recently and looked very reliable. Ricky warned Wayne with sharp eyes, although his face still looked a bit childish, his whole temperament was no less than that of others. If you want to talk, just talk. Do you think you're the only one with hands? Don't move around. I raised my arm and carefully wiped the place where Wayne had grabbed me with a wet wipe from my pocket. I thought all 4 of them were dirty. Assis's good little brother, your sister isn't in a hurry, why are you? Good things are worth waiting for, she'll see me soon. I patted Ricky's shoulder with a pleasant smile, signaling that we should leave together. Let go, my good little brother. I'll invite you to watch a big show in a few days. These words were meant for Wayne to hear. Wayne was the most ruthless, but whether in the previous life or this life, he was Assis's most loyal follower. In the previous life, he and Silas fought in front of Assis's house because Silas's parents never agreed to let Assis enter their family. Assis cried for 2 days because of this, and Wayne beat Silas to vent his anger. After all, in the eyes of outsiders, Assis, like me, liked Silas the most. But in this life, Assis suddenly had the identity of a young lady from the Beijing elite circle, and she might not be unable to enter the Silas family's door. I intended to show Wayne a big show, but unfortunately, Assis, who had gone abroad to seek medical treatment, didn't come back for a long time. The rumors about Assis's background grew more and more intense. He directly declared that he must marry Assis. Everyone was busy with their own things. I suppressed my excitement about the upcoming show and prepared for the college entrance examination step by step. After all, who wouldn't want to enter Tsinghua University if given a second chance? I deliberately asked my mother to find a pure and innocent male student majoring in physics from Tsinghua University to tutor me in physics, and also to tutor Ricky, by the way. The boy had excellent sports talent. As for cultural courses, as long as they were passable, I didn't ask too much. But Ricky was really worry-free. He clearly knew what path he should take in the future. So after finishing his schoolwork, he added an extra hour of practice for himself every day. His originally thin and tall figure gradually became covered with well-proportioned muscles. The boring physics became more enjoyable with his presence, and I got 10 more points in the last mock exam in high school. Finally, having fulfilled my wish, Assis and the others arrived late after the college entrance examination. The big show that I said I would show Wayne was also ready to be presented. In the previous life, the reason why our SH family fell so quickly was mostly because we helped the Hugh family cover up their dirty deeds and ruined our reputation. The Hugh family had countless mines in the coal capital. They probably couldn't even count how many were privately mined themselves. With the environment not meeting the requirements, the equipment not up to standard, and the security not in place, how could there be no accidents? The minor ones were all suppressed by the Hugh family. But once there was a coal mine accident, it was not just a matter of a few lives. Once the news of a mine disaster with dozens of casualties was exposed, the Hugh family was completely in a desperate situation. At that time, Hugh and his father knelt in front of my parents and begged them to help the Hugh family get out of the predicament. But it was also because of this that the public thought that we were in the same boat as the Hugh family. Now looking back on everything before, perhaps the Hugh family had planned it long ago. First, they used our SH family to whitewash themselves. Then, dragged our SH family into the water. And finally, completely brought us down. But in this life, our SH family would never offer any help again. Instead, I would be the first to light the fuse. Everything started with my physics tutor. His name is Ryan. He was also a poor student sponsored by my father. Originally having a happy family, however, a mining disaster completely took his father away from him. His mother sought justice everywhere but in vain and died of anxiety at home. Finally, heading for the field, Ryan buried his parents with his father's clothes and hat. I got a lot of useful information from him. In that mining disaster, there were many children like him who lost their fathers and brothers. Now these children have all grown up. Time won't erase the hardships but just makes people numb. While the heartbreak of losing one's closest ones will only be engraved more deeply in the memory. By investigating through Ryan, the families and children of many victims were quickly found. The mining disaster of the Hugh family will soon be brought up again and known to the public. I hope I can be in time to give them a big gift. In the end, it was Silas who won Assis's favor and got the beauty. Actually, Assis was pregnant, otherwise she wouldn't have been in such a hurry to get engaged. Suddenly, I felt a bit pity that the trump card I had prepared was about to be used. Don't you feel pity? It's Silas. You can't even see your father-in-law at your engagement, don't you really feel pity? I pretended to speak for Silas but actually stabbed him in the heart. The implication of my words was that Assis's family looked down on Silas and no one from her family came to the engagement banquet. However, Silas was in high spirits today because of the happy event. He didn't say anything after hearing my words and raised a smile again to welcome me in. Assis, who was greeting guests beside him, wasn't so. Her expressions kept changing and she dragged Silas away. In my previous life, I once asked Silas if he really liked Assis. He said, "Sherry, why don't I like Assis? Do you want me to like you? No matter what I do, you always act as if you're above everyone else. It seems that it's my duty to please you. Who would like you?" Until Assis appeared, I knew what love was. Being loved is such a happy thing. She would comfort and encourage me until late at night when I was in a low mood. That was after I scolded him for not studying cultural courses well. even though he planned to study medicine and would only be a bad doctor in the future. I saw that he was really sad and then asked Assis to go to him. She would also send me the scarf she knitted by herself to keep me warm in the cold winter when I was waiting for you after class but couldn't wait for you. I had already said that I had a competition that day and told him not to wait for me. He forgot and still blamed me. I guess that Silas wouldn't dare to leave when he couldn't wait for me and would still stupidly stand in the snow. So I transferred money to Assis and asked her to buy a scarf and send it to Silas. Every time I think about it, I want to scold myself for being so stupid. So is Silas. People from the Assis family in the Beijing circle wouldn't come even if Assis died here today. But it's different for us, Assis's family. I picked up a glass of drink on the table, took a step, and looked at the noisy crowd at the entrance of the banquet. The good show was about to begin. A stooped figure of a man rushed in. He grabbed Assis and wouldn't let go, crying loudly. Assis, I'm your father. You stabbed me and I lay in the hospital for 3 months. I thought it was just an accident, but why didn't you come to see me even once? Assis, now that you're prosperous, you can't abandon me. Instantly, everyone around was shocked. Such a shabby-dressed, down-and-out, and slovenly man was actually Assis's father. Assis couldn't stop the man's outburst at all. She could only keep explaining to others in a panic. I don't know him, he's talking nonsense. Come on, someone drive him out. The man pushed Assis, who was blocking in front of him, aside and rushed to Silas's parents. In-laws, Assis is really lucky to marry into your family. If Assis does something wrong, in-laws, you can discipline her. It's okay even if you beat her, she's as tough as me. Look, we look alike. And he lifted his hair to let people see his face clearly. He really looked a bit like Assis. This girl has been a tough one since she was a child, she can't be beaten to death. Silas's parents were so confused by the man's sudden outburst that they called the security guards to drag him out. The man struggled and took out his phone, constantly asking the people around to watch the video that was playing. Assis, you're so heartless. How many times have I begged you? Look at how hard you stabbed me. Everyone look, Assis is not a young lady at all, she's an attempted murderer and a murderer. The video was the scene of the crime that I took at the resort. Finally, having fulfilled my wish, the man simply threw his phone on the carpet in the hall and let everyone watch it. Some curious people stepped forward to pick up the phone, but Assis snatched it and threw it hard on the ground and kicked it crazily. Silas didn't seem to understand what was going on yet. His fiancée was taken into Hugh's arms and Hugh comforted her softly. Hugh glared at me viciously and the anger in his eyes was about to burst out. Sherry, it's you, right? How long are you going to bully Assis? I sat steadily at the table, tasting the delicious food. This dessert is quite delicious. The most impatient one, was Brandon. He was the first to come up and confront me. Sherry, can't you bear to see Assis happy? What has Assis done to wrong you? With a slap, Brandon's face was turned aside. I slowly wiped the hand that had hit someone with the tablecloth. Then I got up and left the table. Silas seemed to suddenly wake up when he saw Assis in Hugh's arms. He walked quickly to me and questioned me. Sherry, put away your little tricks. Even if you break me and Assis up, it's useless. If you want me to be with you, you're dreaming. Before Silas could finish his words, with a slap, I gave him an even harder slap. What nonsense was this crazy guy talking? I think you're so dizzy with this big happy event today. I even feel dirty hitting you. Since I was already here, I gave you a hard slap on the face. Assis was crying in Hugh's arms and couldn't be slapped for the moment. Before these people could react, I called out the bodyguards who were mixed among the desks and had them protect me in the middle. At the same time, I controlled the people present and let them watch the surprise I had prepared today. It's a pity that Wayne didn't come today. I didn't get to slap him and my obsessive-compulsive disorder made me feel a bit uncomfortable. While the guests haven't left yet, let me show you another good thing. The big screen began to play bit-by-bit videos of Assis and them. The scale was so large that Silas's mother fainted on the spot. The engagement banquet became even more chaotic. Each of them thought that they were the only one for Assis. So when Assis proposed to record the beautiful moments, they showed great cooperation. Their expressions and postures were all in place. And the protagonists of today's engagement banquet, the female protagonist was hiding in the arms of the male protagonist's good brother, and the male protagonist's face was full of mixed emotions. Sure enough, the combination of bright red and bright green was the most catching. Assis, who had been hiding in Hugh's arms, was suddenly turned aside by him and fell to the ground. Silas was so angry that his eyes were red. He tightly grasped Assis's collar and questioned her crazily about why she had done this to him. I minded Assis to look up. There was still more drama to come next. A secretly filmed video was played on the big screen at the banquet. There were the voices of a man and a woman in the background, but only Assis's figure was shown in the video. This was the biggest trump card for Assis to squeeze into the upper-class circle. All the money she earned was obtained by forging and selling fake ancient paintings. Although the ancient paintings she imitated were fakes, they could be sold at sky-high prices as genuine ones. It's really a pity that with such good skills, she had to take the wrong path. No one can escape today, they all have to go inside and become tailor-made like Ethan. All the videos at today's engagement banquet were sponsored by Ethan. Of course, I wouldn't cooperate with him. Instead, I joined hands with the police to arrest him. He was arrested some time ago. These were the evidences he provided voluntarily in order to get a reduced sentence. Almost all of the illegal businesses of the Ethan family were in Ethan's hands. Once investigated by the authorities, Ethan was the best scapegoat. Coupled with the evidences I had collected during this period, Ethan could be in on the sewing machine without worry for decades. He exposed the illegal deeds of Assis and my 4 childhood friends. They used the fake ancient paintings painted by Assis to resell on the black market and made huge profits from it. At first, the 4 of them just had a good impression of Assis. But when they realized that Assis could easily earn so much money just by selling one painting, they began to fall completely. The temptation of money made them unable to leave Assis, and they began to actively introduce fires for Assis and share the spoils. However, Assis's hands suddenly became disabled and there was no supply of subsequent fakes. They panicked. This was also the reason why they all pointed the finger at me after Assis had an accident in my previous life. After all, I had cut off their source of wealth. It turns out that the people around me were all so realistic. They surrounded me in order to climb up to my family and take over my family's property. They also surrounded Assis for the sake of benefits. No wonder that the little tricks Assis played were not unnoticed by others. It was just driven by interests and I was just a useless piece. The last video was a conversation between Ethan and Assis that Ethan secretly filmed. Since he often walked on the edge of danger, Ethan didn't trust anyone and always grasped Assis's weaknesses. This video not only let everyone know the illegal deeds of Assis and the 4 of them in reselling fake paintings, but also showed how absurd Silas's engagement banquet was. Assis wanted to rely on her child to marry into the Silas family, but the child wasn't Silas's at all. Assis on the big screen looked tenderly at the person opposite. Brother Ting, you said that the eldest grandson of the Silas family in the future is actually the child of someone from the Ethan family. Do you think they will be furious when they know? Just thinking about it is funny. I don't know if they will be furious, but I saw that Silas was really on the verge of being furious. He really fell in love with Assis. He might have taken a fancy to the benefits that Assis could bring. Brandon was attracted by her beauty. Wayne seemed to regard Assis as his master. It was quite strange. Silas had true feelings. I knew it in my previous life. The Silas family has many private hospitals. In order to let Assis pick up the paintbrush again, Silas even had the idea of a transplant operation. At that time, they almost had the power to cover the sky. Silas had performed several operations privately, but they all failed, so he gave up. Now it seems that he had planned it long ago. I originally only wanted to expose the crime of the Silas family's private hospitals in selling birth certificates. I didn't expect that Silas had started plotting so early. However, it's just right, we can take them all down at once. I will have a new life and they will all go inside and become Taylor together. The engagement banquet finally ended successfully with all the protagonists being taken away to step on the sewing machine. However, what I didn't expect was that the scene from my previous life repeated itself. Hugh, who should have been detained, showed up in the hall of my house in the same posture as before. He was brought by his father and knelt in front of my parents, begging me to show mercy. Sherry, Uncle begs you, please let your brother Hugh off. I'll make you apologize to you. As long as you're willing to let us go, you can do whatever you want with him. I was holding Ricky's training data and slowly came down from the second floor. My parents couldn't bring themselves to refuse Hugh's father's plea, but I could be ruthless. I set my parents away and dealt with the father and son by myself. After all, I had exposed the matter of a mine disaster in the Hugh family. And when the big tree falls, the monkeys scatter. Hugh, who used to be arrogant, now had his clothes in disarray, a messy beard on his face, and looked 10 years older all of a sudden. He just bowed his head and knelt on the ground, not daring to look up at me. He murmured, Sherry, I was so blind before and mistook something worthless for a treasure. Please let me go. I really know I'm wrong. I'll give you all the money from selling the paintings. No, I'll give you all the money of our family. I really don't want to go to prison. I'm still young. Hugh became more and more excited. Seeing that I remained unmoved, he crawled towards me on his knees. He grabbed the hem of my trousers. He was like a little dog begging for mercy, wagging his tail at me. His eyes were full of fear and helplessness, looking extremely pitiful. But he was no pitiful little dog. He was a wolf from the East Mountain who didn't deserve any help. If he wasn't dealt with once and for all, he would surely make a comeback in the future. I pulled out the hem of my trousers that he was grabbing and kicked him on the shoulder, knocking him over. Only by being ruthless could I protect myself. After just 1 year of training, Ricky had already started to participate in provincial leagues. All the major clubs, both openly and secretly, wanted to poach this swimming prodigy. But unfortunately, they all failed. Interest can indeed corrupt people, but people with a conscience will still act according to their conscience. Just like when I was a child, I broke a leg while saving Wayne, which made it impossible for me to participate in swimming training ever again. But I had never blamed Wayne, nor did I regret saving him. After all, Wayne was just an innocent child back then. When in danger, anyone capable would go to save others. In the following days, the family enterprises of the several of them were either sealed up or the people in charge were put in prison. Finally, having fulfilled my wish, my life returned to peace. It would be better if that annoying Wayne wasn't around. I went out through the back door of my house, intending to avoid Wayne, but he still found me. It seemed that since Assis's hand was disabled again, Wayne seldom used his sunny smile as a disguise. He was becoming more and more like the Wayne from my previous life who always lurked in the dark to spy on his prey. "Sherry sister, I have something to tell you, can we have a chat?" Wayne looked haggard and there was a pleading tone in his words. Of course, I didn't agree. "No need, we have nothing to talk about." I walked around Wayne and was about to get into the car. Suddenly, he took out a dagger and stabbed it into his right hand, right in front of me. "What if I tell you that I've also come back, Sister Sherry? Can I still make up for the mistakes I made? What should I do for you to forgive me? You don't know that after you died in the previous life, I found out that Assis had lied to me and said that she was the one who saved me." I raised my hand to interrupt Wayne's words. "I don't want to listen, you don't need to say any more." Wayne had always been stubborn since he was a child, or rather, he was paranoid. I was shocked that Wayne could even hurt himself like this, but I had already guessed that Wayne, like me, had been reborn. The plan that Wayne had been planning for a long time to frame my family for tax evasion suddenly stopped. And anonymously, he sent evidence of mismanagement in the companies under my father's group and the embezzlement by senior executives to my father. The sound of blood dripping brought me back to my senses. Wayne endured the pain and pulled out the dagger and kept pushing it into my hand. "Here you are. As long as you can vent your anger and forgive me, I won't complain about the pain at all." I signaled the bodyguards beside me to stand back. "Wayne, so what if you've also come back? People who make mistakes should be punished. You should live with guilt for the rest of your life. Who says that as long as you apologize, you can be forgiven for what you've done wrong?" While speaking, I slowly wiped the blood on the dagger with Wayne's clothes. Then I inserted it into his coat pocket and patted it. I wiped all the blood on my hands onto his clothes. "I feel disgusted just looking at you. Take your tool and get lost. A brand new life is always pleasant." I hadn't seen Wayne for a long time. I just occasionally heard that he was locking himself at home. And I always received little things sent anonymously by him in various ways. They were all things that I had said I liked and wanted when we were still playmates. Unfortunately, after so long, these things were just useless to me. Just like Wayne. The days of striving passed quickly. I hired a famous professional coach in the industry for Ricky and his performance improved rapidly. I could be considered half of his coach. I accompanied him in every competition, big or small. It was also to make up for my regret of not becoming a swimmer. He was going to participate in the World Championships. The Olympic Games, which are held once every 4 years, was an opportunity that Ricky and our sports brand couldn't afford to miss. In the previous life, Ricky was found to have taken stimulants in this competition and was discredited. In this life, he performed steadily and even broke the world record. My sports brand rose and stood along with Ricky's position in the swimming world. I was also rated as an outstanding young brand manager. A wonderful life was beckoning to me. Ricky really lived up to expectations. Besides making me worry less about his competitions, his good looks remained as charming as ever. Growing up proportionally with the amazing physique of a swimmer and a cute boyish face, he was almost 1.9 meters tall even before turning 18. When I was watching the playback of his competition in the hotel lobby, some girls even came specifically to ask me who he was. Just looking at his physique, they thought he was a celebrity. But it turned out that he was still using a phone watch. "Ricky, why don't you use the mobile phone I bought for you? Aren't you ashamed to always wear this phone watch?" Ricky carefully fastened the watch strap while giving me a look that seemed to say you don't understand. The boy's eyes were always warm and the stars in his eyes were captivating. Sister Sherry, when I go to train by myself, people on the subway always ask me for my contact information when I show them this. Fewer people ask for it. Besides, for sisters, having you is enough. How nice, we will all have a brand new future.